Crimes from the East. I'm your host, Pia, and with me is Alex. Hello, Alex.
Coming in hot for the first time in 5 years with real, live, actual Wi-Fi.
Wow, you have Wi-Fi now.
Fiber. Whatever. I don't know. Fiber? Optic?
Fiber optic. That's better than what I have, so congratulations, Alex.
Yeah. Yep. Finally joined the modern age.
That's excellent. So today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a case that is a little more serious. We take on a somber tone and we deal with a very sensitive case that rocked India in the winter of 2019. And there is fair mention of elements involving sexual assault and other statistics about violence against women in India. So listener discretion is highly advised.
Big time trigger warning.
Yes, I definitely want to put that in. Like we did in our earlier episodes, this is a serious one. So we are not going to have the usual silly banter that we do. This episode is made in collaboration with Ogilvy's DNA Fights Rape social awareness campaign, which is about DNA evidence and its importance in the conviction of violent criminals. I'll give you more information about that campaign later on in the episode. Right at the top, I wanted to mention that the sources of information for this episode are all news articles in the public domain, mostly India Times, Times of India, Times Now, Deccan Chronicle, The Hindu, etc. With all that out of the way, Alex, are you ready to get into today's case?
Yeah, these ones are hard.
These ones are harder.
These ones are really hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's always like a level of sort of stupidity, but it's easier to make fun of the
other types of crimes.
Other types of crimes and the criminals. Whereas this is just scary and
it's not as if these crimes don't occur in South Asia. They do. It's just that I choose not to cover them for the most part because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to research all of them and I absorb it all and then it just affects me a lot. And that's why we do this, once in a blue moon. We do this rarely.
Yeah.
These stories do need to be told. And that's why we kind of pick and choose the timing and the cases, so that it's easier for our listeners as well.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, and maybe there isn't an answer to be given right away, but I was wondering if there was a reason that we're covering this specific case, because there are unfortunately so many cases like this in India specifically, but also just in the world in general.
Yeah.
Was there something that maybe stood out to you in this case?
Well, first off, it was recent. So this case is from 2019, right?
Okay.
I was visiting India at that time and I saw it on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the part that I saw, we'll talk about it later, actually. So I will come back to your question right at the end of the episode and expand further on that. But I think the first thing was the timing of it, because it is in 2019 and it was such a big case.
Yeah. Okay.
So widely discussed in public, in the news and in public. So I picked this case. So with that, let's look into the rape and murder of 26-year-old Disha by multiple perpetrators on the night of November 27, 2019. Disha, the word Disha in Hindi means direction or one who shows the way. And the victim's name in this case in the media has been mentioned as Disha, but that is not her real name. It is the name given to her publicly by the police and her family. It is illegal to mention or publicize the name of any victim of sexual assault in India, especially if the family requests not to.
Mm-hmm.
We do not know nor choose to seek out the real identity of Disha.
Okay.
And as we have mentioned before, there are layers of subtle and blatant stigmatization that go hand in hand with rape victims, as well as their families in most of South Asia. Let's get into the case. On November 27, 2019, at around 6 p.m. in the evening, Disha parked her red scooter near Tondupalli Toll Plaza in Shamshabad on the Nehru Outer Ring Road just outside of Hyderabad. Now, Hyderabad is the capital city of the southern Indian state of Telangana. It is one of the IT hubs of India, so there's a lot of call centers, etc. in Hyderabad. And it's also the fourth most populous city in India, so it's pretty dense.
Question.
Yeah.
Is Cyberabad?
Yeah, Cyberabad. Yep.
Is that like a nickname or is that an actual place? Is that like calling it the Silicon City of... It's like Hyderabad is actually Cyberabad. What's happening here? I'm confused.
Very good question. I had to look it up. So Cyberabad is kind of like a nickname given to the area inside of Hyderabad where the IT companies and other tech companies are located.
My gosh, that's cute.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's cute, isn't it? Cyberabad.
I like it. It doesn't roll off the tongue, but it looks funny.
Yeah,
like when you see the word written down, it's like, haha,
Cyberabad. So it's the fourth most populous city in India with almost 7 million residents. Almost 10 million residents in total if you count all the surrounding satellite cities and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it has an output of $74 billion US dollars.
Whoa.
Billion.
Damn.
US dollars.
Money.
It has an excellent economy. The city itself, like the newer construction in the city, is just beautiful. Back in the day, like decades ago, it was one of the cities that had wide highways. The roads were amazing. It was well planned and they had nice buildings. It was great. I went there in the early 2000s and I was quite amazed because I used to live in Pune city at that time, which is just a total mess if you look at it.
It's more organic.
Very little city planning. No, it just doesn't make sense. So Hyderabad was like amazing to me. I was like, wow, you can live like this? Like cities can be this nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
All in all, it's a happening city. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of people. Lots of people, good and bad. On that day, Disha was traveling on the outer ring road. So basically there are huge ring roads outside of the city to kind of circumvent traffic.
Yeah, that's what we have in Paris. Well, in France in general, all the cities have rings too.
Yeah, the ring road system.
Yeah.
Exactly. So she went to a toll plaza.
Toll booths?
Toll booths, kind of like toll booths, yes. You know, the kind where you have easy passes, you just drive through it.
Yeah.
So a toll plaza is similar to a rest stop.
Okay.
In the American context, near a toll checkpoint where trucks and other vehicles can park and they rest and they sleep for the night, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, yeah.
And a lot of the stop vehicles there are waiting to get clearance to carry commercial goods beyond that checkpoint. So the right amount of tax and fees, etc., need to be paid before they can enter or exit the city. And that's why they have these kind of toll booths and toll plazas near ring roads, which make it a good spot for these trucks to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it is also a good spot for cabs and buses to pick up passengers that are either entering or leaving that part of the city. So it's just a natural stop for all kinds of vehicles. And this is precisely why Disha parked her scooter there. She hailed a cab from the toll plaza to visit a dermatologist, in a city called Gachibowli. I apologize to any native Telugu speakers if I'm saying these names wrong. I'm trying my best. So Gachibowli is 26 kilometers or 16 miles away from the toll plaza.
Okay.
And that was too much for her to drive or ride on her scooter, so she caught a cab from there. She was going to her derm seeking treatment for acne, basically.
Okay.
Or acne scars. And this is so me at that age. This is what I was doing. I was doing the same exact things. I was going to the derm and fixing my scars. And, you know, you're anxious about your appearance and you feel a little insecure. And you're like, in your head, although I never really wanted to get married, but in your head, these are the things that go through it. You know, I'm going to get married soon.
Yeah.
I want to look good for my pictures, whatever.
She's 26 years old. Like,
Yes.
You said she was a vet, right?
Yeah.
So she has probably like a steady income source. She wants to spend it to, like, you know, treat herself, feel good, be a independent, beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I related so much to this when I read that, because these are exactly the things that I did at that age. I spent my whole salary on seeking out really expensive derm treatments because I was living at home with my parents. So I didn't have any real expenses, so to speak.
Especially these kinds of stories, whenever they start with the like victim just out doing something innocuous, like normal everyday life, like showing any sign of independence in India, to me, that's just heartbreaking, because they should be able to do that without having to think about, you know, something batshit crazy happening to them.
Most of us don't think much about doing things like this. Ordinary errands that don't warrant any extra precautions. You're just being yourself, doing stuff. It's a normal day to you. You know, you shouldn't have to be on the alert 24/7 all the time. Disha boarded the cab at the Toll Plaza and she left a little after 6:15 p.m. On her way there, she spoke to her mother, telling her she only wanted to eat watermelon for dinner that night. Then she asked her mom if she had taken her medications for the day, you know, the ever-caring daughter. But unbeknownst to her, eyes were watching Disha that evening. Lustful, malicious, evil eyes that followed Disha's every move and anticipated her return, possibly later that night when the Toll Plaza would be deserted. Evil, criminal intent sprang into action and was about to darken the future of a young woman. At around 9:15 p.m., Disha returned to the Tondupalli Toll Plaza and tried to start her scooter up so she could get out of there as quick as possible. It's dark, it's kind of desolate, you don't want to hang around there. However, she found that the tires on her scooter were completely flat. They were punctured and rendered her bike unusable. In that moment, Disha must have truly felt afraid being alone on a dark road, although it's just next to a busy toll booth. Doesn't matter. You're a woman.
Exactly. I was just going to say.
Even if there are 300 people there, but they're all men and you're the only woman.
Oh my God. No.
You're alone.
Nope.
You're alone.
Nope.
There really is no place that is truly safe at night for women, especially in India.
Yeah.
Feeling that way, she called her younger sister using her cell phone and told her about her predicament. Disha told her sister that she had gotten on her scooter and started the bike to leave. But 4 men shouted out to her from behind that her rear tire is punctured and that she wouldn't be able to drive like that. And although she said, no, it's fine, I'm going to try, they had actually held on to the back of the bike and insisted that they help fix the tire. I mean, at that point, your bike isn't really moving and there are 4 guys behind you. You're already feeling cornered and threatened, right? So you're going to kind of not confront them. You're going to avoid confrontation. She quickly got off the bike and then that's when she called her sister because she
Can I ask a quick question before we continue? Do we have any idea why she did these 2 different modes of transportation to go to the derm?
No, it doesn't mention in any of the articles why she did
I mean, it
that.
doesn't matter, but it's just like, it sucks.
It possibly may be to save time and money because, or maybe cabs don't enter the city beyond the ring road because they have to pay all kinds of taxes and stuff, right? If you sit in the cab beyond the toll booth, it probably saves you another 100, 200 rupees. Because now the cab driver doesn't have to pay the toll either. So he won't charge you for it. It may be something like that. That's when she called her sister when they got off the bike. And she told her sister that she was okay, but she was very afraid of the men staring at her from the shadows. She said that one of them had taken her bike away to get it repaired.
No.
Just took it away like, I'll get it repaired, don't you worry. And like I said before, you don't want to confront them because you're alone. You know you're very alone. You're suddenly very aware of how alone and vulnerable you are. And she really had no choice. Actually, she had no choice. And so she just must have said, okay, sure, take my bike, whatever. She's talking to her sister on the phone. So she asked her sister to keep talking to her on the phone till he returned with the bike because she felt incredibly unsafe with those men around. Her sister asked her to call for another cab at once and leave for home, leaving the bike over there. And Disha agreed with her. She said, okay, I'll call you back. And this is where the 6-minute 45-second call ended. Sadly, that call back never came. And Disha's sister never heard her sister's voice again. When her sister tried to call her 15 minutes later, Disha's phone was switched off. And her family were not able to get in touch with her.
That must have been so scary. Like, for the family, because they actually must know that something bad is happening as it's happening. That just must have been...
She told her, I'm alone. There are these 4 guys. He took my bike away. God. Disha knew something was wrong, right? Her instincts were already so high. She was on alert anyway. She knew something was wrong. She called her sister. And yes, I imagine her sister and her family must have totally understood the situation and had known that something is wrong. They immediately left their home and headed for the Toll Plaza, which took a little time because it wasn't like right near their home. And they reached the Toll Plaza at around 10:20 p.m. So it's about
the family went themselves. Okay. Damn.
Yes. They went to the Toll Plaza and looked everywhere. But they found no trace of Disha, only just 45 minutes later. They couldn't find her bike. They couldn't find her. They approached the police station another half an hour later because they had to look for the police station, right? You don't just know where it is. This Tondupalli Toll Plaza is located right near the Rajiv Gandhi International Airport. So the police station that they found closest to the Toll Plaza was this RGIA police station. It's located directly on the highway and it's close to the Toll Plaza. But the cops there, instead of helping the family, refused to lodge a case because they said it's not under their jurisdiction.
Come on.
This is an utter failure of the system. And it shows a lackadaisical, apathetic attitude of these men in khakis, supposed to protect the people of India. If an FIR or First Information Report is refused on the ground of jurisdiction, it is still mandatory for the police officers to record information about the commission of a cognizable offense and forward that same report to the police station having proper jurisdiction. Otherwise, it amounts to dereliction of duty. So it isn't up to the family to run around trying to find which police station, covers this jurisdiction. Because in your mind, this is the closest one, so it must cover this area, right?
Plus, it's like a crime potentially happening in the moment, It's like an urgent situation, so it shouldn't be like, oh no, we don't deal with that. It should be like, okay, well, we have to find whoever is supposed to deal with this now, and we need to start dealing with the situation now, because like time is of the essence. She's essentially a missing person, right, at this point. Best case scenario.
Indians are familiar with these evasion tactics from police. And so Disha's family went to the Shamshabad police station where the RGI police station guys directed them to. And they asked for help there. The cops at both these stations were just apathetic. They questioned the family if perhaps Disha had a secret boyfriend and had eloped with him. Perhaps. Not really being missing after all.
It's always, oh, she's just run off. Like, when does anyone actually ever do that?
They do that, but it's definitely not that common. And this shouldn't be the first thing you think of. You come to that conclusion after you searched. It's been days. You found no other traces. The phone has been traced and it's in some other location, whatever. Once you've done your diligent duty, okay, then you can come up with all these speculations. The moment the family comes there. This is just bullshit. It boggles my mind because they had concrete information. They had concrete information about where she was last seen. It's not as if she left her home in the morning at 7 and was gone, right? They knew.
And she would like called her sister and said, I'm in trouble. I'm scared. Like,
clearly there was enough information for them to have at least started looking for her. There was a trace, but police were inept or just unbothered. I don't know. I don't know what their problem was, but it's pathetic. It was 3 a.m. by the time 2 constables were sent with the family to search the Toll Plaza. 3 a.m. Disha told her sister she was feeling unsafe at around 9:20. It's 3 a.m. when the cops finally go with the family to search the Toll Plaza. They didn't find Disha. There was no sign of her or the red scooter. Disha was gone. At 8 a.m. the next morning, 10 hours after Disha's last phone call, a milkman returning from his delivery route near the Chatanapalli underpass noticed something sticking out of a bonfire he had seen there earlier. It was a human hand. Soon, word reached the Shamshabad police station, and the family was taken to the spot by the police, where, much to their horror, they found the burnt remains of a young female victim. There was no means of identifying this body because of the burns, but they noticed that she was wearing a gold pendant on a necklace, and the pendant was that of the Hindu god Ganesha. This is how Disha's remains were identified right there by her sister, as it lay smoldering below the underpass. Other items found there were also identified as Disha's, a torn scarf and the buckle from her purse. Now, what a horrible thing for the family to have to witness. I'm at a loss. I don't know. Did the police think this was a good idea? Do they have zero sensitivity training?
But how are you supposed to, handle... I'm obviously not the way that they did, but how are you supposed to...
The family should never have been allowed to see the remains in that condition, right? Once it's taken into the morgue and the coroner can remove the pendant, put the necklace, on a tray and show that to the family, have them identify that, right? Because eventually DNA is what helps to identify the victim. There was just no need for the family to see her in that state. Can you imagine the trauma from that?
No.
As the family mourned their incredible loss, the police suddenly snapped into action. They were now determined to find the killers because the public was outraged. The news had spread all over town, all over Hyderabad, as well as the national news media channels. The cops suddenly had a fire under their butt to get going. 10 teams were deployed all through the Shamshabad and Tondupalli areas to search and question along the highway. Disha's bike was found by the road near the underpass with the key missing. Near the Toll Plaza, just 100 meters away, police found in a vacant lot by the highway women's underwear strewn about, as well as an empty bottle of whiskey. The emergency line for police in India is 100 or 100. There was a call on this emergency number from a petrol pump employee who reported that 2 men had come into the gas station in Nandigama on the night of November 27th, asking for petrol. Petrol is what gas is called in India. I mean, that's the technical name is petrol, but in the US we call it gas. He reported that 2 guys had come in looking for petrol in a plastic bottle. Now, this is illegal in India. You can only buy loose petrol or gas in jerry cans, which are the right material to carry gas in. Gas can actually dissolve plastic. Yeah, so it's illegal to buy it. But the practice of buying and selling in plastic bottles is still rampant.
I can imagine.
There was even a case when a petrol pump owner was arrested and held culpable for a murder committed with the help of petrol that was sold to the killer in a plastic bottle illegally from that gas station. We should cover that case.
Sounds kind of interesting.
And due to this, several owners have now put up notices at the pumps and asked their employees to exercise caution. They've been told if something seems suspicious, don't sell it to them at all.
That's why he called the cops? But did he sell the petrol and then call the cops?
No. So when news of these burnt remains being discovered spread on the local media channels that morning, the petrol pump employee felt like he needed to report the incident that he had witnessed because he thought it might be
Okay.
related. That night, at around midnight, a young man had approached that employee and asked for half a gallon of petrol. The pump employee asked the young man why he needed it, to which he replied that his car had broken down 10 kilometers or 6 miles away, which was suspicious, incredibly suspicious, because there were at least 10 other petrol pumps between wherever he said the car was and this petrol pump. So why had he come all this way? And that's what he asked him. He said, why did you come all the way here? There are so many other petrol pumps that would have given you this gas. So the young man had no straight answers, and he kept speaking vaguely, making excuses. He appeared to be under a lot of stress and was behaving rather suspiciously. So the employee refused to sell this to him, and he watched the young man get on a red scooter with another man. And because he thought something was off, the petrol pump employee followed on foot to see where they were going, and he saw that a truck was traveling alongside these guys on the red bike. So this tip-off by the employee is what ultimately cracked the case in that short period, because the police now looked at the CCTV footage from that pup. The perps were seen riding Disha's red scooter.
So that was her scooter.
Yes, that was her
And I guess they fixed the tire.
Oh. Police then looked at the CCTV footage of the Toll Plaza and the surrounding businesses, noticed that there was a truck and Disha's scooter driving together away from the Toll Plaza. A sketch was also made of that young perp, and on further inquiries, the police traced the men to a village in the outskirts of Narayanpet. They were caught within 48 hours of the murder. The truck's plates and other symbols on the truck were identified on CCTV leaving from the toll plaza, because usually the CCTVs at toll plazas are of good quality. They want to catch all those tax evaders. Yeah. Right? And so they have good CCTV there. So once they knew the truck plates, they called the owner of the truck. The owner told them about who he had given the truck to drive. That's how they knew, okay, we're looking for so-and-so guy, the driver of the truck. The 4 men arrested were Muhammad Arif, aged 26, who was the driver of the truck; Chenna Kesavalu, aged 20; Siva and Naveen, also both aged 20. So the older men were the truck drivers and the 2 younger men were cleaners. Usually these are assistants to a driver and they sit in the passenger seat. They clean the truck, they load goods, and they keep the driver company on long trips. That's what the other 2 guys were doing. The suspects were kept in very high-profile, secure jail cells because the public had erupted in a fury that was getting harder to contain. Outside the police stations were masses of protesters chanting for the suspects to be either hanged or handed over to the public. It was slowly becoming uncontrollable. News of this murder was ripping through the country like wildfire. Women were now calling into the Hyderabad police station with their concerns about their own safety and asking what measures the cops are going to take to ensure safety of women. For the next few days, Hyderabad was a ghost town after dark. People were staying in. No one had the guts to go out at night because this crime had totally taken over the psyche of the city. Over the course of 6 days, the police interrogated the suspects who confessed, and they laid out the gruesome crime that they had committed. Arif, the driver, was carrying bricks from Karnataka to Hyderabad in his truck, but the receiver of the load was unreachable. So he had parked the truck at the toll plaza and he was waiting to hear from whoever the customer was. He met up with the 3 other suspects there while he waited. And the men consumed alcohol, getting more drunk by the hour. At around 6 p.m., they saw Disha parking her bike. They have nothing to do. They're just sitting there drinking. They see a woman park her bike. Now, they knew that any trip in and out of this ring road highway area would take at least a couple of hours, right? it wouldn't be too hard for them to guesstimate that by the time Disha would return, it would be dark and desolate.
Especially if she gets there at 6 p.m.
It's already kind of dark outside. They decided to entrap and sexually assault Disha right then.
What kind of gross conversation is that even?
I don't even want to imagine it. This was so clearly premeditated. It was not something that just happened. They planned this.
Yeah, that's what really gets me, is that, like, she didn't realize when she got off of her bike and into the cab that her fate was already being messed with by some creeps in the background.
So the men punctured the bike's tires and they waited to execute their dastardly plan. They waited from 6:15 to 9:15, 3 hours. They waited 3 hours, getting more drunk as time went on.
Oh my God.
And so when Disha arrived at 9:15, she tried to leave on her bike, but they talked her or forced her or threatened her into letting them help her fix the bike. Just after she hung up the call with her sister, they approached her again. Arif gave her his cell phone number to gain her confidence. Right? Because he's like, here's my number, blah, 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 whatever, just to get close to her.
Yeah.
And then they lured her a little further using her bike as bait. The conversation may have gone something like, all right, your bike is here. Let's go. We'll take you to your bike. But once they were in the shadows, they grabbed Disha and they dragged her away to that secluded spot behind the line of empty trucks parked along the highway. There, they force-fed Disha alcohol and then took turns sexually assaulting her.
Oh my God.
The roaring of aircrafts from the nearby airport and the steady hum of traffic on the highway would drown out any screams at night in that area. But they still covered her mouth and nose to muffle her screams. This ended up suffocating her to death, and she passed away around 9:35 p.m. 3 guys were assaulting her at this time. The 4th guy had gone away with the bike. Remember? He had actually taken the bike to get it fixed at a puncture repair shop.
Okay.
He returned with the bike. When he was told that Disha had died during the course of the rape, it made no difference to him. It didn't stop him from further desecrating her remains by committing necrophilia with the corpse.
Oh, no.
This just goes to show how depraved these men were at this point.
So the asphyxiation was kind of by accident?
It appears that way. I couldn't find any mention of them admitting to planning her murder.
Yeah.
It may have been an accident. We just really don't know.
Oh.
If we had further progress in the case, we may have found out, but as we will see soon, things didn't really go anywhere. The men wrapped up the body in a sheet. They put it in the truck that Arif was driving. And then they drove to 2 petrol stations looking for fuel. They found the fuel at a second petrol station after the employee refused it at the Nandigama pump. They set the body on fire around 2 a.m. below the Chatanapalli underpass. Toxicology reports showed that alcohol was found in Disha's body. DNA reports received by the police showed that the seminal fluids found on Disha's scarf and underwear belonged to the 4 accused men. Disha's identity was also confirmed using DNA tests. And this is what I was talking about, right? The family did not have to be taken to that spot to look at smoldering remains to identify her. There was just no need. So
I was thinking that maybe it was because they wanted to identify that body as soon as possible in case it wasn't hers so that they could move on to the next. You know what I mean? But there has to be a better way to do that.
Yeah.
Away from the body and then show them to the family, not still attached to the smoldering corpse.
Don't take the family to the spot.
No.
Let them stay at the police station, take a picture, show him a picture of just whatever item it is.
Yeah.
That was recovered.
I mean, this is 2019, right? Krishna.
Allegedly, As per the Commissioner of Police of Cyberabad, the men confessed to having committed 9 other rapes and murders in the adjoining regions in 3 different states.
What? So they're serial rapers.
As per the commissioner, right? Now, there were indeed at least 6 cold cases of burnt remains being found of female victims in that area. So it's not hard to believe that they could have been responsible for them because they are truck drivers after all, right? They are usually the prime suspects in cases like this where you can't connect the murder to a suspect.
They're like drifter killers getting paid. That's nuts.
However, you do need more than just confessions to rightfully convict for such serious crimes. Confessions are never just enough. Never.
Especially since I think you said at some point, too, that a lot of times the confessions get redacted or rescinded afterwards. And when it comes to trial, when lawyers get involved, probably.
Yes, so there's confessions in front of police when they're in custody. And then there are official confessions which are done in front of a magistrate in court. So the second one is the one that is taken as official evidence in any case, because usually all suspects will rescind or redact their confessions done in custody. They always claim they were coerced or tortured or brutalized by the police to say whatever they said. But that eventuality of getting a conviction was never realized in this case, because on December 6th, merely a week after Disha's murder, the 4 suspects were killed in an encounter with the police during a crime scene reconstruction and evidence-gathering visit to the underpass. The police claim that the suspects, who were for some reason not handcuffed at all, had grabbed the cops' guns and started to fire at them, so they had to be shot in self-defense. There were more than a dozen police officers and 4 suspects.
Okay.
Yeah. Somehow they managed to get their guns and shoot at them. I don't know what their plan was, because you have a dozen cops. Even if you get 2 guns, there are at least 10 other cops who can shoot at you. So it doesn't make sense.
Even if it's true, it sounds like the situation was sort of set up for that to happen.
In India, this is called an encounter. I mean, the word encounter is used in this context in India. You see it in a lot of movies, in a lot of Bollywood movies, where cops will just take criminals that they want to get rid of for whatever reason and then claim it they shot them in self-defense or they were running away or doing whatever. They literally take the suspect in their jeeps, their police vans, whatever.
Yeah.
Open the door, push him out, and be like, run. And the suspect knows what it means. They know that I'm going to be encountered now by the cops.
Shit. That's crazy.
That's one way to circumvent the legal system, I suppose.
Yeah.
The public was absolutely overjoyed. They felicitated pictures of the police commissioner and fed sweets to all the cops on the street, hoisting them on their shoulders, rejoicing the deaths of these cruel monsters, which is totally the opposite of what the public usually says or does regarding police.
Yeah.
Incidentally, the same commissioner was also part of a team that shot 3 other suspects years ago. Those suspects had thrown highly corrosive acid on a girl when the man was aggressively pursuing or harassing her for love, and she refused. So the same commissioner had done this kind of an encounter, I believe.
Yeah, okay.
There is a pattern of instant justice that we see here. Now, we can't say it was fair or not. We can't say that true justice was served because India is a democracy with a solid constitution in place to mete out sentences in accordance to the laws of the land. Yes, the judicial and legal system is overburdened beyond belief. Yes, it takes years, sometimes decades, to see court cases through. And yes, conviction rates are not high in cases of sexual assault or murder. But still, extrajudicial killings are perhaps not the solution, right? They're not the solution. They don't solve crime. They don't solve crime. They don't have long-term effects. They don't deter crime after a short period of time has passed. It only takes a moment to cross the line, and for many, there is little restraint or need for restraint in a highly patriarchal society, which treats women unfairly, seeing them more as objects than equals. That extrajudicial killing of a suspect is not going to have any effect on individuals like that.
Yeah. It's just like responding to madness with madness, basically.
Like we saw in the Hercules case that we covered, in episode 2, Alex.
Yeah, way back in the day.
Yeah. If that was an effort to curb rapes in Bangladesh, it sure didn't help at all.
Mm-mm.
It didn't work. It never works. Studies have shown it never works.
Mm-hmm.
The Home Minister of Telangana made a horrible comment, totally victim-blaming Disha, when he said, and I quote, "She's a doctor. She's educated. Why did she call her sister first? She should have called 100, which is the police emergency helpline first." That's what he said.
Well, seeing how his police responded when the family came, it's not really inspiring much confidence.
Yeah, just shut up with that idiotic and hurtful rhetoric. How about making sure your cops know how to handle these cases, like Alex just pointed out? And this is a prime example of the inane leadership in the country, which just doesn't help when it comes to crime rate, because these are the kind of people leading the blind, really.
I don't like it.
So that was officially the end of the case today. There's really no justice. Disha lost her life. These 4 suspects lost their lives.
Well, we'll never know the extent of their bad doing, right?
Exactly. We will never know if they intended to commit murder, if it was an accident. We will never see them be, given sentences. Perhaps they may have even gotten the death sentence, right? Because if that's what the public wanted, everyone was chanting for them to be hanged, they may have been hanged. Just wait. What's the need for just killing them and letting them out of misery, right? You want them to suffer. If they are guilty, you want them to suffer. By shooting them in a field somewhere, you've just ended their misery.
Exactly. No. I mean, we shouldn't want anyone to suffer, but if anyone's gonna suffer, it should be these guys, for example.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Ogilvy campaign that we are collabing with today.
Okay.
The hashtag for the campaign is DNA Fights Rape. It is an initiative which aims to equip people with better knowledge about how preserving DNA evidence can make the path to justice easier for survivors and the families of deceased in such heinous assault murder cases.
Okay.
So one of the biggest challenge a survivor faces is in proving the offense while relying on ocular evidence in court, right? Like when in reality, more often than not, there's just no eyewitness in such a case.
Yeah.
This makes collecting and preserving offender DNA more crucial and urgent. And a lot of people in India just don't know about that. They don't know about DNA and how it should be preserved. Okay. So bodily fluids, skin or nails, hair from the scene of the crime and from the survivor must be collected and stored for further analysis in the right manner, as this would be the most conclusive evidence that can lead to a conviction in court.
Yeah.
Right? So DNA evidence must not be washed off. It must be saved, because it is only natural for a survivor to want to wash it all off as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But you have to preserve that DNA for it to be collected first in all cases like this. And that's the point of this campaign. The message of DNA Fights Rape is don't wash, don't clean, save the evidence.
Okay.
You can look for their hashtag and their Instagram account. Support them in any way you can. Share this news and their campaign posts. Talk to your friends and family about it. And not just your immediate circle of people, but also talk to those who don't necessarily have access to social media in the same way that you do,
Oh.
If you have drivers, you have cooks, you have house cleaners.
I guess we're talking to our more Indian audience right now.
Yes, of course, yes. I'm talking more to the South Asian, the Desi listeners, because these are all luxuries most of us cannot afford unless you're super rich.
Yeah.
Talk to them about it. Find some excuse. I don't know how you bring up this topic, but it can just be as blunt as it needs to be because it's important.
Just everyone should be aware, and maybe it will deter and add to the culture of disgust against this kind of behavior and action. So
if you want fear in the minds of criminals, perhaps this is the way. Spread the word.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 2021. You cannot hide. You can't hide. There's DNA evidence everywhere.
Yeah.
You will be found. You will be convicted.
And also just that, although it's probably a vast majority of female and female identifying victims, there are still men and male identifying victims, and everyone is going to have that feeling of violation after something like this happens to them, and everyone should know that. Resist that reflex and
preserve the DNA.
Even if something like this happens to you, you can physically be your own piece of evidence in your own defense. It's so hard to talk about.
It is a huge population. It's 1.3 billion people. So yes, there are a lot of cases, but the crime rate is not that high. The crime rate is 1.3% or something.
I read on Wikipedia or something that it's actually one of the lowest rates in the world.
Well, it may not be because there are lesser crimes in India. It's probably because they aren't reported.
Not reported, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
Because of the fear of stigma. It's just not reported. It's underreported.
Yeah.
We must try our best to offer support where needed and oppose ostracism whenever we come across it. So if you hear some auntie in your gully or your neighborhood talking shit, just in general, talking inappropriately about any kind of assault victim or their family, you shut it down. You tell auntie to shut the hell up.
Get back in the kitchen, auntie. Go do the laundry. Sorry, that's wrong.
2 wrongs don't make a right, so we don't do that. But yeah, you shut it down when you encounter it. You don't stay silent. We must normalize the idea and access to therapy, counseling, etc. for all survivors and their families. We need that, especially in South Asia, where it's considered almost a second level of stigma to seek therapy, because you must be crazy if you're going to see, a counselor or a shrink or something. No, that's not right. That's not right. We have to normalize it. It's taken a couple of years in the US alone to make it normal.
Yeah.
That's not the case in South Asia yet. That's my one hope for India and the rest of South Asia. Normalize the idea and the access to therapy and counseling.
It will come. If we can thank globalization for anything, it'll be for that kind of stuff, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. You had something to say, Alex?
When you sent me this story, I sort of went deep into a hole of different cases like this, because I remember back in 2015 there was another huge case about a woman who was assaulted in a bus, and there was a documentary made about it that sort of covered this sort of crime, and I remember just feeling so angry and sad and affected by it. So I was looking into that, and that led me into sort of this what does feminism look like in India, and that's a whole a huge whole topic. Maybe another time we can talk more about it, but I just wanted to highlight one little thing that I found that's it's bad, but it made me feel kind of good. There's one feminist activist named Sampat Pal Devi.
Mm-hmm.
She was a former government worker, mother of 5, who noticed domestic abuse and violence within her own community as she grew up in India. And as a result, she just started a vigilante group called the Gulabi Gang
Oh, yes. Yes, I know about her.
They would track down abusers and beat them up with bamboo sticks until they felt satisfied that they had repented and the victims have been sufficiently avenged. And, like, that's definitely not the correct response, but there's something about it that's, like,
Gratifying.
kind of satisfying. Yeah.
At least they didn't kill them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just, like, kind of like, I mean, I bet if I saw it in real life, I would not like it, but the image in my head of, like, a group of women chasing down, like, a bad boy with some sticks is, like, it feels good.
Yeah. There's actually a very good movie on that story.
Oh, okay.
And I was thinking about covering this story in a case. So we might do that.
Cool.
Yeah, we might do that because, yes, it is one of those stories which makes you feel a lot more empowered.
Yeah.
It may not be the most legally sound recourse.
Right.
But, you know, there's a saying in Hindi, Lato ke bhoot baaton se nahi mante, which means, oh my God, I can't even translate it. Basically, it means you can't talk sense into certain people.
Okay.
Because they only listen to action, and so you have to kick them. Into sense. You have to kick sense into them.
Well, that's probably kind of true.
That's exactly what they're doing, or what they did. I'm not sure if they're still beating people up with
We
sticks.
need to grab the broom.
Someone get the broom.
Get the broom.
That is a very interesting story. And yeah, maybe we'll cover it someday in an episode. To circle back to the question you had asked me at the beginning, why I chose this case today is because it has so many different layers of injustice and just this feeling that the right thing wasn't done in the case, especially because of the way in which the suspects were shot.
Yeah.
Now, if the cops are saying, hey, they were probably responsible for 9 other rapes and murders, there's actually no justice for them. Because if you, in your mind, are thinking, okay, they did it, you're closing off those cases. You're not even looking at them anymore.
Yeah.
And that's why I felt we should cover this case today, because we need a lot of reform in India as far as the cops are concerned, as far as the procedure goes for evidence collection, because a lot of cops are not even trained in
evidence collecting,
in the science of evidence collection, especially DNA evidence. There are so many cases where you read and you're so frustrated because you hear that 24 constables walked all over the crime scene and now you don't have footprints.
Yep.
You can't collect DNA evidence anymore because they've contaminated the scene. Yes, we need a lot of reforms. We need more policy in India, especially for these kind of things related to evidence, DNA collection. Of course, making sure the convicts reach the court to receive their sentencing. Yep. So Disha's case is a sad one, but it may help to bring some change in the system because 3 constables were suspended because they refused to lodge the case in the first police station. And an inquiry commission was put into place to look into those shootings of the suspects. There may be some change, some improvement in the system because of this case. I'm sure we've all had that moment of panic when we were out and about at night and suddenly find ourselves alone and vulnerable, right? Now, this is not endemic to women in India. Crimes against women are quite high all over the world, and that fear is unfortunately innately built into us because, of how society treats women. So what do you think, Alex? What are your final thoughts?
At some point when, since I've been living in Paris, I discovered that they sell like mini bottles of wine and they fit perfectly in your purse. I lived in a decent neighborhood, but there was like a side of it, especially if I got out of the metro at that area, that I always was very aware of my surroundings walking home.
Right.
It's illegal in Paris to have any kind of weapon. Even if you use like mace, you can get almost equally charged.
Wow.
Basically, there's some weird law where the response has to match the violence that was...
Like the violence that was shown to you.
Shown to you. Yeah. So if someone like tries to rob you, but they don't have a weapon and you mace them or try to like, you know,
defend yourself,
cut them with a knife to defend yourself, then you could actually be in more trouble. So in my head, it was like, well, here's the workaround. I'll just take one of these mini bottles of wine. And if anyone tries to mess with me, I'll just conk them on the head with it. No one can say like that I had a weapon on me. It's France. We like just carry wine around us all the time.
Perfect. This is such a good idea, Alex. Anyone, listening, if it's legal for you to carry alcohol in your purse,
self-defense wine.
Yeah, buy some self-defense wine.
Yeah, ladies, keep mini bottles of wine in your purse at all time. Just look angry and mean when it's dark outside. You know, you shouldn't have to do any of those things, but better safe than sorry. What a world we live in.
Well, not just a woman, but whoever. If you see people out on the road at night,
look out.
Look out for each other.
Yeah.
You never know what's lurking in the dark. That's all we have time for today. You can follow us on social media, especially Instagram, and also visit our website, crimesfromtheeast.com, where I have a lot more information about our sources and rate us and review us on iTunes. That helps us a lot. It helps spread the word.
Check out the Ogilvy campaign at hashtag
DNA Fights Rape.
So hashtag DNA Fights Rape on Facebook and Instagram. It's Where's the DNA?
Yeah, you can follow Where's the DNA on Instagram if you want to support and be more informed about this campaign.
And apparently they're doing drives pledging to make India rape-free. That's one of their goals. So,
a worthy cause indeed.
Yeah, let's make the world rape-free.
Mm-hmm. That's it. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks on another episode of Crimes from the East, your Desi True Crime podcast with a little masala and spice.
Spice.
Namaste.
Namaste.